9:17 p.m. A woman walked into the Bellwether Hotel carrying a black suitcase. The security camera captured her face clearly. She approached the front desk and gave the receptionist her name, Mara Ellison. She paid for the room in cash. She was given room 814. At 10:03 p.m., she ordered room service. At 10:41, she asked for a second key. And at 11:26 p.m., a security camera recorded her entering an elevator. She never appeared on camera again. The next morning, room 814 was empty. Her suitcase was gone. Her phone was gone. Her clothes were gone. But the hotel had something investigators thought would make the case easy: her name. There was just one problem. Mara Ellison didn't exist.
The Bellwether wasn't a luxury hotel. It was an old 12-story building in the center of the city, with faded carpets, brass elevators, and narrow hallways. That night, the front desk clerk was 26-year-old Hannah Price. At exactly 9:17 p.m., the doors opened. The woman walked inside. She appeared to be in her early 40s. Brown, shoulder-length hair, dark green coat, black suitcase. She walked directly to the desk. "I'm checking in," she said. "Reservation under Mara Ellison." Hannah searched the computer. There was no reservation. The woman didn't seem surprised. She placed a stack of cash on the counter. "I'll pay tonight." Hannah asked for identification. The woman reached into her coat, then stopped. "I must have left it in the car."
Hannah explained that the hotel normally required identification. The woman smiled politely. "I understand." She opened her suitcase. Inside were clothes, toiletries, a paperback novel, and several envelopes. She pulled out one of the envelopes. It was filled with cash. Hannah hesitated. The hotel manager wasn't there that night. Eventually, she accepted the payment and gave the woman a room key. But before walking away, the woman asked something strange. "Is the east stairwell still closed?" Hannah looked confused. "Yes." "Why?" "Fire inspection." The woman nodded slowly. "That's what I thought." Then she walked toward the elevator. At 9:24 p.m., she entered room 814. 7 minutes later, she was inside. And no one knew that this would be the last ordinary moment of her stay.
At 10:03 p.m., the woman called the front desk. She ordered a cheeseburger, French fries, and black coffee. Nothing unusual. The food arrived 16 minutes later. The waiter said she opened the door only halfway. She took the tray, then immediately closed the door. At 10:41 p.m., she called again. "I need another key." Hannah asked why. "I locked myself out." The woman came downstairs. Hannah made a replacement key. Before leaving, the woman looked directly at her. "Has anyone asked for me?" Hannah said no. The woman paused. "Are you sure?" "Yes." The woman smiled faintly. "Good." Then she returned upstairs. At 11:26 p.m., the security camera recorded her leaving room 814. She walked toward the elevator. The doors opened. She stepped inside. The doors closed.
The elevator reached the lobby at 11:27. The doors opened. Nobody walked out. The elevator was completely empty. At first, the staff assumed the woman had taken another elevator. But the cameras showed nothing. No exit through the lobby, no exit through the side doors, no movement through the parking garage, nothing. The next morning, housekeeping entered room 814. The bed had never been slept in. The room service tray was still there. The cheeseburger was untouched. The coffee was cold. There was no suitcase, no coat, no phone, no woman.
police were called. Detectives initially believed this would be a simple missing person case. They had her name, they had her photograph, they had her fingerprints, they had her DNA. Then they searched the databases and found absolutely nothing.
There was no driver's license belonging to Mara Ellison. No passport, no employment records, no medical records, no credit history, no property records, no social media accounts. Nothing. It was as if the woman had been erased from existence before she ever entered the hotel. But investigators found one piece of evidence inside room 814.
Look at this.
A small piece of paper. It had been folded twice
It's
and
untouched.
pushed behind the nightstand. Written across it were 6 words. If they ask, I wasn't here. There was no signature, no explanation. Detectives considered the possibility that Mara was using a false identity. Maybe she was hiding from someone. Maybe she was involved in fraud. Maybe she had planned her disappearance. But then investigators checked the hotel's older records, and everything changed.
The Bellwether had upgraded its security cameras several years earlier. Older footage had been transferred to an archive server. Investigators searched it. They found something impossible. A woman who looked exactly like Mara Ellison had appeared inside the Bellwether Hotel before. Not last year. Not 5 years ago. 23 years earlier. The footage was dated September 14th, 2001. The image quality was terrible. Black and white, low resolution, but the face was unmistakable. Same eyes, same nose, same expression. Even the same small scar above her left eyebrow. The woman walked to the front desk. A receptionist handed her a key. Investigators checked the old paper records. The woman had been assigned room 814. But there was something wrong. Room 814 didn't exist in 2001.
Mara Ellison, 2001. Investigators searched the hotel's old records. They discovered that a woman named Mara Ellison had stayed there in September 2001. She was 38 years old. She checked in alone. She paid cash. And 3 days later, she disappeared. No checkout record, no forwarding address, no explanation. Investigators searched newspaper archives. They found a short article about her disappearance. A photograph was attached. It showed the same woman, the same face, the same eyes, the same scar. 23 years had passed, but the woman in the 2024 security footage appeared almost unchanged. Police contacted Mara's family. They found her older brother, Thomas. When detectives showed him the recent photograph, he stared at it for several seconds. Then he said, "That's my sister."
Thomas was 71 years old. He told investigators that Mara had disappeared in 2001. She had never contacted the family afterward. But there was something he had never told police. 1 week before she disappeared, Mara had told him she was afraid. She believed someone was following her. Thomas thought she was being paranoid. Then Mara said something he never forgot. "If I ever go to the Bellwether, don't come looking for me." Thomas asked why. Mara looked terrified. Then she said, "Because they don't lose people there. They erase them." Thomas didn't understand what she meant. Neither did the investigators, until they searched the Bellwether's records again. They found 3 other women who had stayed in the same room. All had paid cash. All had checked in alone. And all had somehow disappeared from the hotel's records.
2 of the women had officially been reported missing. The third supposedly moved overseas, but investigators couldn't find evidence that she had ever entered the country.
The pattern was disturbing. Still, there was no proof of a crime. No suspects, no hidden room, no secret passage, no evidence of human trafficking. Then investigators found something inside the wall of room 814, a metal box. Inside were dozens of photographs, all taken inside the hotel. Different years, different people, but the same room. Some photographs were dated from the late 1970s. Others were from the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, 2010s. In several photographs, people were standing inside what appeared to be room 814, and many of them were later reported missing. Then investigators found the newest photograph. It had been taken one day before Mara arrived. The photograph showed an empty hotel room. The bed was perfectly made. The curtains were closed. And sitting on the bed was a black suitcase. The exact same suitcase Mara had carried into the bellwether. Investigators compared the photograph with security footage. The suitcase appeared identical. Same scratches, same handle, same small silver tag. That created a new question. Who had placed it inside the room? And how could someone have photographed it one day before Mara arrived? Investigators developed several theories. The first was organized crime. Perhaps the hotel had been used for decades as part of an identity theft operation. People entered under false names. Their records were altered. Then they disappeared. It explained some of the evidence, but not all of it, because there was still one impossible question. How did Mara look almost exactly the same after 23 years?
Investigators examined the concrete wall. There was no hidden passage, no tunnel, no exit. But someone had written 3 words across the wall in faded black paint. She came back. The investigators didn't know what it meant. Who was she? And where had she supposedly gone before? The hotel was temporarily closed. Room 814 was sealed. Investigators removed parts of the walls. They searched the floors. They inspected the elevator shaft. Nothing. Then, 6 months later, police received an envelope. There was no return address. Inside was a photograph. It showed Mara standing outside another hotel. She was wearing the same dark green coat. She was holding the same black suitcase. And standing beside her was the unidentified man from the east stairwell. The photograph was dated 3 days after her disappearance.
Investigators identified the hotel in the photograph. It was nearly 200 miles away. They contacted the manager. Has a woman named Mara Ellison stayed there? The manager checked the records. Then he paused. Yes. The detective asked when. The manager gave them a date. Mara had checked in the previous night. Police arrived less than an hour later. Room 612 was empty. The bed had never been slept in. There was no suitcase, no phone, no identification. Only an envelope sitting on the desk. Inside was another photograph. This time, it showed the Bellwether Hotel. The photograph had been taken from across the street. In one of the upper windows, a woman was standing behind the glass. It was Mara.
And the date printed on the photograph was tomorrow. The photograph was examined for signs of manipulation. Investigators found none. The case remains unresolved. Mara Ellison has never been found. The man from the east stairwell has never been identified. The 2001 disappearance remains unexplained. And investigators still cannot explain how the same woman appeared in photographs separated by 23 years without appearing to age normally. Some believe it was an elaborate identity theft operation.
Others believe several women were deliberately made to look like Mara. Some believe the bellwether was being used as part of a decades-long criminal network. And some believe the answer is much simpler. Mara never disappeared in 2001. She simply stopped being Mara. Then, 23 years later, she walked into the same hotel, under the same name, because something had finally brought her back. And if the final photograph is genuine,
She may still be walking into hotels, still carrying the same black suitcase, still using the same name, still leaving no identity behind.